Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Unturned map editor tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to use the roads. And more specifically, I'm going to be showing you guys how to use the updated tools for the roads, because over the last year or so, Nelson has added a few more changes to the tool, and so there are a few more things you can do with them now. So let's just review the basics. In order to start using the roads, you need to go to the Environment tab and then click the Roads tool. Over on the right, you see all the different types of roads you can use, and you'll see some details about them below, and I'll go over that in just a second. So if we want to start placing a road, all you have to do is click on the type you want to place and then start placing down these little dots connected with these lines. Now in order to see the road you have just placed, all you have to do is press bake roads, and this will bake out your road in whatever shape you made it in. Now let's say we want to create a separate section of road. What you have to do is deselect the last node, that's what I'm going to call these little dots, and start placing another track. Now if you didn't deselect this node, what's going to happen when you press over here is it's just going to try to connect it, and that's not what you want if you're trying to place two different sections of road. Now in order to get rid of different parts of your road, you can either press delete when selecting the white center of this dot, or you can press delete when you're pressing either the blue or the yellow sort of arms that come off of it. And as you guys can see, the road won't update immediately that you've deleted it. You have to bake roads every time you make a change, otherwise you won't be able to see those changes. Alright, so let's say we want to change types of road. Now, sadly, each section of the road has to be the same type. You can't change sections of road or change types of road mid-section, but what you can do is we're going to start another section over here, and then all we have to do is while one of these nodes is selected, we just have to select a new road type, and that does include train tracks because they're treated the same way as roads. So now when we bake, you can see that we've got a different type of road here as well. Also, a sort of shortcut for deleting large sections of roads is by pressing Control Delete. That'll actually delete the entire section of road that you were connecting to. So if we just do it in all these, we will have no more roads, and they just completely disappear. Alright, so now let's talk about some of the different options we have for these roads. So let's bake this road real quick, and we're going to look real close at it while we do this because it'll change generally how the road looks. So first of all, we have got the width. This one's pretty easy to see and it's kind of self-explanatory. If you make the width higher, the road is literally just going to get wider. So depending on what you want for your map, whether you want the road to be larger or smaller, you can customize that using width. Height is also kind of self-explanatory. Pretty much with height, all you have to do is increase the number or decrease the number. Now you're not going to see a change on this piece of road, but what we can do is change this road to like a racetrack. So let's bake this again and let's mess with the height here. As you guys can see, the height is 8 and you may not think it does anything. Well, it's actually going to change the pattern on the road itself. So let's change that to 5. And as you guys can see, it made the pattern wider on the road. If we make the number larger, it should make the pattern smaller. It's that sort of thing. So that's what height is used for. And then we have depth. Depth is the last one. This is actually the one that decides how thick the road is. So as you guys can see, the road's not very thick right now. But if we put like the depth to 1 or something crazy and then rebake it, the road is a lot larger, and you guys can just see it's just a lot thicker in general. Alright, so the last option down here is concrete. This actually has to do with the footstep sound that your character makes when walking on the road. If you do check it to concrete, it's going to make it sound like a hard sort of concrete sound when they're walking on it. That's going to be something you can experiment with on your own, but just know that it does exist. Alright, so now let's work on using some of the items here on the bottom left. So to start off, we're going to place another road, but this time we're going to use this weird funky terrain I created. And as you guys can see, as I'm placing this on the train, you can see that the lines are sort of molding to the train. And that's sort of a new feature that Nelson added, and it's potentially very helpful and useful. So as you guys can see when we bake the road, it's not completely perfect. It's still clipping through the ground, as you can see right here. It's not really the greatest, but what we can do is just place a couple more nodes there and almost fix it. And with enough messing around, stuff like that, you could definitely fix that issue there. But we're not going to mess with that quite yet. Let's start off with talking about ignore terrain and offset. These are going to be the most helpful tools when using roads on interesting terrain. So to start off, ignore terrain how you have to use it, you have to use it node by node. For example, if I click this node and press ignore terrain, it's only going to ignore terrain for this connection from this node to the next node. It's not going to do it for the entire road length. So for example, if we want to ignore terrain right here, we just have to click on that one and press ignore terrain. If we want to ignore terrain for this one as well, we can press ignore terrain right there as well. So pretty much what this is going to do is it's essentially just going to ignore the terrain. It's sort of self-explanatory. The lines are not going to mold to the landscape. They're just going to go straight, and it's going to be a little interesting how you can actually use this. So let's create another road line, and let's say I want to make a road piece that goes from top to bottom on the very corners, and it's not going to be a very good road piece. Just, warning ahead of time. And we're going to make all these ignore the terrain. So essentially what it's going to do is create some sort of a bridge sort of structure. And, this could have various applications. If you want to create a bridge, this would be a good place to use this, just because it allows you to span large gaps without having it sort of mold along the bottom. Alright, so that's about enough for molding to the terrain. Let's talk about offset. So we're going to leave this ignore terrain here, but let me show you what offset does. So offset is going to raise the point up or down. So if I press offset and we're going to type in like 1, you guys can immediately see the line raised up just a little bit, and as you can see, the road is being placed higher than it normally would. Now if you press 10, you guys can really see it raised up there by a lot. Now this is a little glitchy, as you guys can see, so you got to be careful when using this, but it is a really good tool. Also, something to note is you can put negative numbers in here. So if you want to put it like lower than it should be, you can do that with offset as well. So let me delete this whole section, and let's talk about the loop terrain option. So we're going to use the same basic road. Of course, guys, all these things work with all different types of road. And as you guys can see, by default, the loop option is not selected. Now, if we do select the loop option, it doesn't really matter where on the road chain we do. It's going to connect the beginning and the end sections, and that's actually really useful for creating loops. Who would have guessed? So this is just a really good way of making loops, and yeah, that's pretty much what it's used for. Also, something you guys may be noticing me doing is just moving these points around. I'm not placing a new one. What I'm doing is after selecting this, I press E in the new location I want it to be, and it'll just move it around. It's similar to objects and how those are moved as well. So now let's go over how to use these little arm things, because I've sort of ignored them up to this point, and these are actually some of the best tools that have been added to the roads because it allows you to make really nice smooth transitions and stuff like that. Alright, so the way you start using them is you essentially just click on them like the normal road node. After you click on them, all you have to do is relocate them using E, and you can start getting this nice smoothing sort of effect on your road. If you do it to a bunch of the road nodes, you can actually get it really smooth, and it makes just working with the road a little nicer. So once you bake it, it's a lot smoother, there's less angles, and stuff like that. Well, there's a couple options with these, and those options are in the very bottom left that have to do mirror, aligned, or free. And I'll go over each of these. So by default, we use the mirror option just because that's the one that Nelson thought would be the most useful. And as you guys can see, the mirror option essentially changes both sides at the same amount at the same time. So if I move the blue one closer, it's going to move the yellow one closer. If I move the yellow one farther away and off to the side, it's going to move the blue one far away and off to the side. And as you guys can see, using this, you can make some really nice smooth road patterns. Well, let's say you don't want to make some smooth road patterns, or you want to get a little more creative with making roads. You can use some of the other options. For example, aligned. Now, the interesting thing about aligned is it's almost like a mirror. It works the same way, as in it moves yellow and blue at the same angle, but it doesn't move them at the same distance. So as you guys can see, I can have the yellow one super far out, and I can have the blue one real close. It wouldn't work that way if I was using mirror. If I was using mirror, they'd both be the same distance away from the center. Alright, so moving on to the last tool, that is the free tool. This one sort of is different from both of them. Pretty much you can move each of the yellow and the blue however you want, and it doesn't affect the other. So this one's probably the best for completely customizing your road, but the other ones are super convenient with what you can do with them because they just take care of a lot of work for you. And as I said before, all you have to do to delete entire sections is by pressing Control and delete, and it'll get rid of the entire section of road. Alright, so the last thing I want to show you guys is how to integrate your roads into the existing road object. So if you guys didn't realize, there's a second type of road object, and it's literally just called road. You can search it up in the objects list, it'll just be called road. And so we got block road 2, there's like a bunch of stuff that have to do with roads, all sorts of stuff. And so you can use those for roads that come with sidewalks. As you can see, these are both objects. But what I've done here is I've integrated a normal road here into the object road, and the integration was actually really nice. If you press F1, that will by default hide road dots, and as you guys can see, it's very smooth, and it's pretty much perfectly lined up. Now this did not take me very long to do, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that here on the other side. So to start connecting your normal road object with the actual roads, you're going to want to use a certain road object called road line cap or road quad cap, some sort of road cap. And the reason you want to do that is because it caps off the very end of the road. It sort of slants it down. You guys can see it slants it down very far, and it also caps off the sidewalk here. Now that's going to be important for getting it to look nice later on. So what you're probably going to want to do is match the different types of roads. So for example, I'm going to be using Highway 0 because that matches the block road here that I have placed down. Now probably the best way to start this is to place a node decently far into your object. Now you're going to want to place it somewhere right here. Try to get it right in the very center as well. Then you're going to place another one right at the edge, and then you're going to place one last one. Try to be straight out from the others, and then from there you can just continue with your road wherever you want to take it. Now let's bake it and see how well we did just to start off. Alright, so the connection is decent. The nice thing is the road is about the same width as the object road. That's about 8. If you want to make it wider, you can do that, just if you want to try to make it connected a little better. But this is almost perfect. So we managed to get these lined up about in the center, and all we have to do is use some of the other tools to blend it in. Alright, to start blending it in, what we're going to use is offset. So on this very first one, we're going to use like an offset of 0.1. And as you guys can see, this will immediately do something to the road. It's going to move this point up, and it's going to move it just under the surface of our road object. You can't really see it here, but once we get into the second one, you'll be able to see quite clearly. Now on the second one that's at the very end of your road object, you're going to want to put the offset to 0.2 or something related. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a gradient between 0.1 and 0.2. And what that gradient is going to do is it's going to sort of overlap with the normal road. As you guys can see, it's not quite perfect. You can see the yellow line doesn't quite line up, but it is very close. So if you guys are satisfied with this, you can definitely leave that. That's going to be fine for you. And as you guys can see, as the road sort of comes out, there's like sort of a little up slope, and then it slopes down very smoothly into the rest of the road. And whatever you do with the rest of it is up to you guys. You can smooth it out however you want, and you know, it's really up to you on what you want to do once you leave the road object. But because it's not completely perfect, let's try to snug it up a little bit. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of room that's off, and all I'm going to be doing is just moving this back and forth and rebaking it to try to get it perfect. Now as you guys can see, I got it almost exactly perfect. This is going to be fine for me. I'm going to be satisfied with it. You can see there's only a little bit of a gap there, but that's pretty much how you do it. You just sort of place your 3 dots, first one, second one, third one, try to get them in a nice straight line. Then you're going to want to move the offset for the first one to 0.1, move the offset for the second one to 0.2, and then you can do whatever with the rest of the road. Once you bake it, it should blend right into the road object very well. So anyway guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you learned a lot of stuff about roads. There's a bit that changed, and hopefully this clarifies that for you. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.